Your life. So, first of all, if you could tell me a little bit about your story, like how you came to Syracuse, then how you got involved with the Army, and then eventually in wheelchair curling, that would be great.
Yeah, so I went to Syracuse Law School. I started in 2013. It was kind of happenstance. I was looking to get out of Montana. I had some friends out on the East Coast in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania throughout that area. And I was unsure of what I wanted to do, and I applied to way too many schools. And I had actually been accepted to a school in Spokane, Washington, Gonzaga, where I was going to go to law school. And then Syracuse kind of their acceptance trickled in a little later. And my brother saw it in the mail and had said, "You should go to Syracuse. They have a great basketball team." And for whatever reason, I was like, sure, that makes sense to me. That's the answer I'm looking for. And we packed up my car 2 months later, my mom, my stepdad, and I, and drove from Montana out to Syracuse. Never been there before. I had zero connections to it. And it ended up being probably one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So I graduated in 2016, commissioned into the Army right after that, which was a big credit to Syracuse. They have a very big veteran presence at SU, as well as the military law classes and a big recruiting place for the JAG Corps. And so I certainly would not have ended up in the Army had I not been at SU. Um, and then from SU, yeah, so I commissioned to the Army, joined the Army, did, oh gosh, I was medically retired in September of 2023. So while I was in the Army, I did a wide range of things. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2019, to where I originally injured my spine and then could not was not deployable after that medically ready, and so I became a defense attorney, and then I PCS to Fort Gordon, Georgia, where I advised a cybersecurity battalion, so did a lot of cyber law, and that's where I was medically retired out of and moved back home to Montana. And it was a few weeks after my retirement that I ended up paralyzed from the waist down. And I was in the hospital for 3.5 months. I heard about skiing, adaptive sit skiing. I got really involved in that, and that took me out to Aspen, Colorado, to the Veterans Winter Clinic. And I had to try something different than skiing. They kind of forced my hand, and curling was the one I chose. And gosh, it's history from there. And that was in March of 2024. And 2 years later, we'll be in Italy on the Paralympic team, and it's pretty surreal.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. After kind of experiencing an injury like that, what have been some of the most challenging moments in your life, like both in the Paralympics and just in your life in general?
Yeah, I think it's still really hard. At times the hard days seem to pile on top of you, and it takes a little bit of digging to remember that there's good days and positive days. I mean, certainly the first year was devastating at times. To go from walking and the next minute you're paralyzed and finding out you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life is, you know, forever altering news. It was so hard on my family. It was hard on my wife. There were days that I didn't even know if I wanted to do this. Like this, I kept thinking, man, gosh, I was 33 at the time. I ended up in a chair, and so I thought, man, if I live to be 80, that's more years in a wheelchair than I was able-bodied. And that was a very daunting reality. And so, um, I'm just so fortunate that have been surrounded by my friends and my family from every step. My closest friends I met at SU Law. You kind of undergrad, high school, all that's great. We all have some friends that I still talk to from those days, but it's really, those formative years of it. You're beginning to adulthood, and I was in law school, and those people I met have become my closest friends. They're still my closest friends today. They flew out to Seattle to be there with me in the hospital. Surprised me. They're coming to Italy with me, and so it's them. It's my family. It's certainly my wife that have, you know, they put their grief and devastation aside and put me on the forefront of their minds and pushed me to keep fighting, especially in the hard days. And that is something I'll always be grateful for. Oh no, my dogs are gonna start barking. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Stop barking. Um, and it just truly has been incredible. And that family is expanded now that I made the team. They've become my closest friends as well. And we push each other. And when the days get really hard, Knox, stop. It's Knox. We are being recorded. Stop. I'm so sorry.
No, you're okay.
Um, it, it's we just can lean on each other, and I think one of the positive things of that is when things get really hard training and in this grind going up to the games, we all can fall back to those days where it's been way harder in our lives, right? We've overcome so much to get there, and it's just we know how to lean on each other and support each other and get through it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you kind of talked a little bit about how curling is kind of an outlet for you, an emotional outlet. And when did you realize that it could become more than just a hobby or an outlet and that it could become something into your professional life as well?
Yeah, I tell you, I didn't think I'd be a Paralympian this year. That's for sure. Uh, when I first started curling and I met the team at a camp, the very first camp I went to, they were like, "Hey, you know, you're somewhat fun to be around. You might have some talent. Post 2026 Winter Paralympic Games, the team's probably going to recycle a little. We know some may retire. There's going to be an opening, and the games continue, right? Most people only understand that elite level of competition every 4 years when it's whether it's the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics, and what people don't realize is every year we still have world competitions, right? You have to go and compete and earn points and qualify to make it to the games in 4 years. So the focus was, yep, great, 2026, we're going to go, but when we come home, we're resetting for the next quad. We call them the next 4 years, and we want you on the team. So that had always kind of been like in the back of my mind, okay, maybe it'll happen. 2027 is so far away at that point, and especially, gosh, I'm 6 months post injury at this point, and we're talking about 2027, and I'm just trying to get through each day. And it wasn't until probably September, October, I went to a tournament with the team and competed. I'd never really curled before that, but like 2 days, and now I'm competing with Team USA, and it was an incredible experience. I fell in love with it more than I had. On the people, though, it was a team that got me coming back and dedicated. I don't have dedicated curling ice in Montana, so I'm traveling all the time, every month, and at that point, it was still a 2027 focus. Um, it was in June of this past year, 2025, when we got an email inviting all medically classified athletes to selection camp. The program decided to switch things up. They wanted to take a new team into the games. And I still honestly was just like, hey, that's dedicated ice. That's more practice. I want to come. I asked the coach, can I come to this selection camp? Because I want to practice and see what this is about and prepare myself for the next step. And of course, why aren't you coming? Like, we invited you. That's what that means. You don't need permission. And it wasn't until October. We had just come home from Switzerland. We had competed against the countries we're going to be playing against in a few weeks, and we finished second. And I really kind of started thinking, I do want this now. Like, I do want to be on this team. I knew the odds were not in my favor. I'm the youngest on the team. I'm the newest to the program. Everybody else who was at selection had been on the national team at one point or another. Most of them had been to the Paralympics before, and so the odds were against me. But it was a big shift from I want this now, and I'm going to be really disappointed if I don't make the team.
Yeah, no, that's kind of crazy to think about actually how these things must have been like bam, bam, bam for you, like right in a row. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So kind of going back to your college days when you first got to Syracuse, do you take things you learned, not even just from Syracuse specifically, but from being in law school, do you apply any of those to your career or your life?
Well, yes, yes, certainly. So I'm also a practicing attorney on the side full time. So I've got two jobs right now. I like to tell myself, I feel it, whether I believe it or not. It's demanding. But yeah, I think, Syracuse was such a big change for me, right? I grew up in Montana. I grew up in a small town in Montana. I went to a small Montana university for undergrad. Going to Syracuse was a huge change for myself, for my family. Driving on roads that weren't just two lanes, right? Like there really is a saying in Montana, there's more cows than there are cars, and that's what I grew up in. And about the only thing that translated from Montana to SU was the snow, right? I was used to snow and cold weather, um, and it just broadened my horizons, right? I met people from all walks of life that I had never been around before in Montana, and it just truly was, it shaped who I am. I'm confident I wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't made that decision to go out to SU. I certainly wouldn't have the friends that have pushed me along the way, and so it truly was incredible. My professors at the law school, I'm still in touch with today, cheering me on. Like, they've been such a huge part of my life and my legal career and what I learned there to be a successful attorney, um, especially right now. Like, I am not only just trying to be successful, but it's a demanding field, whether you're a Paralympic athlete or not. And they taught me a lot of tools to kind of cope with that and time management. And they kept us very busy at SU to I guess, foreshadow in the future what it may be like if you have multiple priorities as well. So certainly such a big part of my life.
Yeah, wow. So if you could kind of describe what that's like being an attorney and also training for the Paralympics, kind of what that process looks like.
Yeah, so oof, right now it's really hard. I'm very fortunate that my job lets me be a practicing attorney on the road. I work remotely almost always because we've been gone since January 1st. I think I've been home 11 days, counting the two that I've now been home since we got back from Wisconsin. So it is a lot of, if you ask my wife, if I'm not curling, I'm working right now, and it's a juggle. And I think people often don't realize that when you look at all of our athletes, right? We're not funded by our federal government. We're one of three countries who don't pay our Olympic and Paralympian athletes, and so we're all full time employees when we're not training. And right now, gosh, we're training, nonstop. When I just came home from Wisconsin for 2 weeks, and we're going from 5:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and then you're trying to work on top of that. It is extremely demanding, but I just kind of fall back on what I know and tell myself it's all worth it, right? Like that's what kind of pulls you through the hard moments is this is an amazing opportunity, and you never know if you get to do it again in 4 years. I look at the teammates who I had to beat out to get on this team now, and I've only been curling for a year and a half. Like anybody can come up and surprise you. And so trying to remember that the work will always be there, but this may not. And so I'm fortunate that my firm is supporting me 100%. And they often have to tell me, like, take a breath, Katie. You're going to be okay. No one's firing you. Please go and take care of this big dream of yours and do what you need to do. But we're going to be here when you come home from Italy.
Yeah, wow, so impressive. Thank you. And kind of wrapping up here, what do you hope everyone, but especially like veterans and people with disabilities, take away from your story?
I think for me, and I reflect on this question a lot lately. Um, I think it's so easy to look at Paralympian athletes and be think everything's we got it all together, right? Like we are past that anger and sadness, and we just hit like there's a platform somewhere, and once you get on it, everything is better, right? Like that can't be me because I'm not ready to be happy yet. And I look back to when I was at the Winter Sports Clinic where I found curling at the end of the closing ceremonies. They had asked a question, is there anyone here who would change where they're at? Like, are you happy with your life and that you found this, and would you change anything? And I remember looking at everybody and they were all content. They're like, no, no, no. This is great. I'm out here on this mountain, miracles on the mountain. That's what we call it at the VA clinic. And making the best of it. And I remember looking at them like, you guys are lunatics. I'm not there. I am so bitter and jaded. And I think the truth, which I wanted to hear, and I think others want to hear now, is I still would give it up, right? Like, yes, this is amazing. Do not get me wrong. I'm so grateful. I'm proud to get to represent my country in a different uniform this time. But if you gave me the option to to get out of my chair or be a Paralympian, I'm probably going to choose to get out of my chair. And those are the hard truths that I don't think we talk about enough. And I didn't realize that it's okay, right? You don't have to be healed to go and do successful things and be, forget about being a high level athlete, right? If you want to get back into the gym or you want to start getting out and just pushing yourself in your wheelchair, you don't have to heal and be okay with what's happened to you to do that. And for me, that was such kind of a big reflection on my part. And I truly believe it's healed me, right? My journey over the last 2 years has been one of healing, and curling has played such a huge role in that. But I have really bad days still. Right? Like on Monday, I was a mess. Like I did not want to do anything anymore. And that's the reality of life. And I think whether you're a person with disabilities or not, right? Like it's okay to embrace the hard days and the bad times and still find a way to push through and be happy when it's good, right? Like it's kind of this conundrum of I'm really sad and I'm still angry that I can't walk and that I'm paralyzed. And then the other day it's like, man, I shouldn't think like that. I'm going to go be a Paralympian. Like this is incredible. And I stopped trying to separate the two and just realize it truly is okay to be both. And I think we need to hear more of that. It's okay to be angry and on your couch and upset that this happened to you. And it's okay to go that next day and try something new. It doesn't mean everything's better. You don't have to pretend like it's okay to be successful. You just have to be your true self. And I tell you what, if you get up off the couch, it's truly incredible what can happen to you.
Yeah, wow, that's a really eye-opening take. Thank you so much. I think the only last question I have is there anything I didn't ask you that you feel is important other people know, whether about your story, about the Paralympics in general?
Well, I mean, I guess tune in and watch us, right? It's kind of everyone's so excited right now, and we're just about to go into closing ceremonies for the Olympics, and there's 2 weeks off. Our opening ceremonies are on March 6th, and keep the enthusiasm because Peacock is going to be streaming us, and this is, we're getting more awareness out there, and that's how we reach people, right? We want other people to see our stories and be inspired and want to fight and care. And so that's a big piece of this, but I think it's always just a thank you to everybody who's supported me, my sponsors, but my family and my friends. This is their moment just as much as it is mine, and they don't get enough credit for any of this. So
perfect. Thank you so much. That's all the questions I have for you. And tonight, this is going to be airing on our new show, if that's still okay with you. And I can send your team the link, like anything like that, if you would like that as well. But
yeah, that would be great.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good luck and everything. I'll definitely be tuning in now. Definitely.
Perfect. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.